Three, two, one. Good morning and welcome to the Morning Scoop for Monday, September 27th. This is your daily Buckeye fix. I'm Tom Orr. The Rutgers game is in 5 days. The game against Michigan in 61 days. The non-conference season is now over for Ohio State, and the Big Ten schedule resumes this weekend at Rutgers. But before we officially turn the page to big sandwiches, Taylor ham, exit numbers, and the Scarlet Knights, there are still a few things worth discussing from Saturday night's 59-7 win over Akron. My guest today is Buckeye Scoop's Marc Givler. He writes a 10 observations piece that goes up right at the end of each Ohio State game, which is always a must read for me every week. Marc, thanks for joining me.
Hey, great to be back. It's been a little bit.
It has been a little bit. We've tried to have everyone on staff on. I think we're pretty much through everyone in the last week or so. It's been a busy but good time. Your first observation in that piece was about the Kayvon Pope situation, and before we get to that, I do want to get your take on it. But for those who have maybe missed the situation, the update on it on Sunday, Ohio State issued a statement. The exact quote was, "Senior linebacker Kayvon Pope has been dismissed from the Ohio State football team. Kayvon will continue to have use of programs that benefit our student athletes, such as our Student Athlete Support Services Office, and we will support him with his progress toward graduation. He will remain on scholarship through the duration of this semester." You look at that, Marc, and after Saturday night, that was one of the more bizarre. There have been a bunch of bizarre days on the Ohio State beat in the last few weeks, months, years. I mean, this beat's on quite a roll at this point. But that was one of the wilder moments we've seen. After that, that was pretty much their only option.
Yeah, I mean, you can't have that happen on national TV and then bring him back. I don't know that he was willing to come back anyway, so this may have just been a mere formality. But yeah, you can't. I know people are frustrated about playing time in that linebacker room. I know that's been a big thing. They're rotating all these guys, and I think we're starting to see why. I think there was a lot of frustration in that room of guys being in the program several years and not really getting their moment yet. And we've seen now two guys leave the team here in the past week or so. But you can't do that. I mean, you can't cause a scene like that middle of the game. I mean, that's something that's got to be kind of handled privately. And I'm sure, given that situation, it probably was something that was brought up privately numerous times, and we just kind of saw the last straw, and we saw it come to a head very publicly.
Yeah, that was kind of my takeaway was, I don't know that that's an unusual way for one of those things to end, but from looking from the outside of the building, your perception is just fill in the blank has put his name in the transfer portal, and you don't see the paint peeling, screaming matches inside the facility or whatever that preceded that announcement on Twitter. You mentioned the playing time and at linebacker and the rotation and the guys waiting their turn and all that kind of stuff. There's a bunch of weird stuff at the linebacker position. There might not be anything weirder to me than the fact that it's quite possible that the best linebacker in that room right now, at least the guy who's playing the best this fall, might be the guy who wasn't a linebacker at all 3 months ago. It sounds like you were pretty impressed with Steel Chambers as well. What did you see about him, and what do you read into the fact that the guy who's just kind of walking back in the door from over at the across the hall at the running back room might be the guy who's at or near the top of that pile right now?
Yeah, like I said, it's concerning. I mean, and I like Steele, and I think he's, I always thought he was a linebacker coming out of high school. So this is kind of where I always thought he should be, and thought he could be a special linebacker versus kind of an average run of the mill running back. So, it's not that I don't think he can become a really good player, but the fact that he just started focusing on his position the last couple months and is leapfrogged, in my opinion, guys who have been in the program 3 or 4 years playing linebacker is not great. I mean, that we can, obviously Al Washington's had this room long enough now that he's got to kind of take some blame for the way the linebackers have played. We also can look back and, Billy Davis is kind of the gift that keeps on giving here. Just his recruiting evaluations and I guess the lack of, big hits that he had in recruiting. So it's kind of a mess right now that, and I think nothing epitomizes that more than Steel Chambers just kind of walking right into the linebacker room and really, for me, being probably their best guy so far. I think him and Cody Simon are clearly their two best linebackers at this point. But I think Steele is the one guy that we can look at from the opener and say, okay, this guy has gotten better every week. I think Simon's been obviously he had a lot of splash plays, been the one guy for me that kind of really flashes out there among some of the guys who have been in the room for more than a couple months. But Steele's, I think, the one guy who we can look at and say, yep, better every week, and upward trajectory, and he's got great quickness. He's got great athleticism for the position. If you're a solid to good running back, you're going to be a plus athlete at linebacker, if not a plus athlete at linebacker. So I think he brings that, but he's very smart. He's so instinctual. He wasn't running back too. He just was a little bit more limited there athletically. He's not kind of the freak of nature that like a TreVeyon Henderson is. So, you're seeing the plus athleticism, but you're also seeing someone with really good instincts, really smart kid. And one of the few guys, in my opinion, that kind of gets in there and fills the hole and gets their nose dirty.
You mentioned TreVeyon Henderson. Let's talk about TreVeyon Henderson. He is Steel Chambers is new to the position and is kind of rocketing to the top of the pile there. There's a bunch of guys in a bunch of different spots around the field who are true freshmen who are like jumping over a whole lot of guys who've been there a little longer. And I think that's creating some sort of weird dynamics in the team. I mean, we've said on a number of shows before, like there's just a weird vibe around this year's team. I'm starting to think that's what's causing at least some of that weird vibe around this year's team. TreVeyon Henderson comes in, and I think the expectations for him were very high. I think pretty much everyone on our staff who saw him at some point said, hey, this kid's a pretty good running back. And the 5-star rating agreed. So like, this was not like a huge out of nowhere, guy, a comet out of nowhere who just showed up and just exploded on the scene. But he's someone who has met every bit of the expectations. Every time he touched the ball on Saturday night, it was like, this is going to be a touchdown. Even when it wasn't, it was like, well, this was almost a touchdown. And every time someone else touched the ball, it was like, why? Where did TreVeyon Henderson go? Well, they should give it to him. He every time he touches the ball, it looks like it's going to be a touchdown. How good can this kid be? I mean, it's crazy early. We're 4 games into his career. He's getting like less than 10 touches in a bunch of these games. How good can he be?
He can be right there in the discussion, probably with maybe Bijan Robinson is maybe the best running back in America. And I think he can be that probably by the end of the season. He's only going to get better because he's only going to get more comfortable. He's only, running back. Sometimes it takes you a few games to kind of get your feet underneath you and just get comfortable with the blocking scheme, the offensive line. And you're now playing a defense that's trying to actively trick you versus just kind of going against your own defense every day in practice. So, I think he can only get better. It's, yes. So we see the 70, 80 yard runs, but there were so many runs the last couple of weeks where I watch him and I'm like, that's a 2-yard run. And then it's 8 or 10. And those are the underrated runs. I think that we overlook. We all get, juiced up about the 70, 80 yard runs. Those are exciting. Those are fun to watch, but it's those runs where it's like, man, there wasn't much there. And he finds this little lane and he squirts through, and before you know it, he's got 8 yards and he's spinning and falling forward, and he's got 10 yards. And it's like, wow, that was a nothing play. And you either move the chains or you're in 2nd and 2 or something like that. And it's just like, he's unbelievable. And I don't know that they've got, another guy like that. I think Evan Pryor is actually gonna be pretty good, but Mayan Williams will get you that extra yard or two, just strong, low to the ground. But they don't have guys that, in my opinion, that take that 2-yard run and can make 8 or 10 out of it, except for Henderson right now. And it's just obvious when he's in the game that, any run can be a big play.
Yeah. I mean, you hear coaches talk about people like Mayan Williams as, if you block it for 2, he'll get you 4. That's good. You need that as a running back. If you've got a guy who, if you block it for 2, he's going to get you 10, like, well, that's better. That is how that down and distance system works in football. So that's and you're right. I mean, everything feels spectacular, even if the result is, just like, 7 yards. Like, it's just like, it is a notable 7 yards every time he gets 7 yards. He was one of 4 true freshmen to start on Saturday night. Another one who started next to him, Kyle McCord. He another 5-star prospect, another guy who we've seen a lot of, heard a lot about, been very impressed by in our limited glimpses of him, throughout the season, the spring and the summer. What did you think about Kyle McCord's performance after he sort of, he took a little while to settle down, but on the whole, what do you think of his performance and also Jack Miller's performance, getting to see him again for the first really time throwing the football in a game?
Yeah, I mean, I've always really liked Kyle. I think he's got a really bright future. Clearly not a good start to the game for him, but I thought he settled in. They gave him some easy ones there after that first series where he was kind of all over the place. And they gave him some easy ones. You had some pop passes, some bubble screens. They weren't asking him to do very much. There was getting a lot of yards after the catch there to kind of pad the stats a little bit. But we started to see, I think later on, some of those deep and intermediate throws and the zip he's able to put on the football. Prior to Ewers arriving, I thought, McCord obviously has the best arm of that room. And now it's going to be between him and Ewers. I mean, I think that's probably actually pretty close, maybe closer than people think in terms of pure arm strength. But so we got to see some glimpses of that. And then when Miller came in, I actually thought Jack was pretty efficient, but I think at that point, I think he kind of got a raw deal just in terms of, the game at that point was out of hand. And I think the vertical stuff went away. And I think it was just more of a game manager. Let's hit those little short, quick and easy passes. And he did a great job with that. But I don't think he really got to, go out there and showcase the full arsenal of the offense. I think he was kind of limited by the play calling, but I thought he did a good job with what he was given. But nothing that I saw on Saturday night would lead me to believe that if CJ Stroud is healthy, he should stay on the bench. I didn't feel like either of them grabbed the opportunity to the point of like, wow, this guy has to play moving forward. I think CJ Stroud has still proven to be their best option. But, I think just like with Stroud, I mean, I've said this about Stroud the first couple of weeks, he's going to get better with experience. I don't think people are fully appreciating the amount of or the impact of experience, the impact of real live reps against other opponents in your own team. And so I think any of these guys who would play would improve, week 2, week 3, week 4. I think we would see improvement out of all these guys if they got a chance to play. But I just think Stroud gives them the best chance today, assuming that shoulder's healthy. Now, if the shoulder's not healthy, then you got to roll with McCord. But I thought, again, some good, some not so good, but nothing that would make me make a change there at quarterback.
Yeah, you came away thinking they don't have to make a change, but if Stroud is out, they're probably okay for the majority of their games with one or both of those guys if Stroud's not able to go. But if he is, he's probably still the guy. Because you're right. I mean, this is you look at Stroud and it's like, well, he's the incumbent starter. It's like, well, also less than a month ago, he was the guy who'd never thrown a college pass, and he's only in his second year, and the first year was kind of that wonky COVID year. So it's not, he's still on the steep upward part of his learning curve and his performance improvement curve. So that's gonna be one to keep watching. And on the other side of the ball, 2 other guys and the 2 more true freshmen, and this is just ridiculous that we're talking about this many true freshmen playing. In many cases, starting. I mean, 4 true freshman starters. Denzel Burke was the other one. He's another one who just feels like, yes, the returning starter, Denzel Burke. Like, yes, he's also a true freshman. He's a true freshman returning starter in my mind somehow. That doesn't normally work. Another guy who was a starter on Saturday night was JT Tuimoloau. Jack Sawyer came in not too far into the game. Those guys, came in with an incredible amount of hype. And it's like, you're already starting to see it pay off. I mean, it is remarkable to me how much of an impact the true freshmen are having on this team, given the fact, this is not a team that was like a rebuilding job before this one miraculous recruiting class came in. This is a team that was like a national championship caliber team. And then you have the true freshmen coming in and they're all stepping up. Does that say more to you about the true freshmen, or does that say more about the fact that maybe the returning talent wasn't as good as we thought it was?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely a mixture of both. I believe Marc Pantoni called this their best recruiting class that he's had at Ohio State. So we knew that there were several early impact guys here that were going to play. But yeah, I don't think they've got enough out of those 3rd and 4th year guys this year at a lot of positions. I don't think they've got enough out of those guys in the secondary. I don't think certainly not at linebacker. And not even along the defensive line. I think there's been inconsistencies there as well. So that has opened the door, I think. And, one thing I think that got away from them those first few weeks that I think, was not helpful and could cost them a little bit here down the road is, especially the Minnesota and Tulsa games, man, those are games you'd really like to get a lot of freshmen in, and you just didn't put those teams away, and you didn't get those freshmen in as much as maybe you would have thought. So this was our first, I won't say our first look, but this was our first extended look maybe at a lot of these guys. And, again, I go back to live reps against a different opponent. You can't simulate that. They're huge. And I think the thing to watch moving forward is I think a lot of guys did well on Saturday night. And again, overmatched opponent, but confidence is huge with these young guys. You can lose a guy if he's, these young guys, they lose their confidence and you lose them and you don't get them back until until year two. I mean, it's kind of, so to get Sawyer gets a sack, makes a great play on the edge. That kid for Akron was not a great thrower of the football, but was definitely an athletic kid. That's a tough play to make in space, make that tackle. JT Tuimoloau was noticeable. Tyleik Williams is a monster. This was a guy I kept getting told all summer. They love him, but it might be year two. He's got to reshape his body a little bit. He's learning. They've got some vets in front of him. Might be a year two breakout star versus a year one breakout star. Well, he's 9 or 10 games early, I guess, with his breakout. He's game 3, I guess, was his big breakout. And he obviously had another great performance again. So, and then you see Evan Pryor at the end. Some quickness there, some burst. I mean, that was impressive watching Evan Pryor there at the end too.
Yeah. And what's interesting is you hear people talk about Ryan Day, and it's like, well, he's still coasting on the fumes of the Urban Meyer era. We'll see what he's like once Urban's recruits are out of the room. And it's like, you're looking at this year and it's like, I don't know that Urban's recruits are not the ones that are necessary, are necessarily the ones that they're going to really be relying on this year. This is, you're sort of, you can almost see the program turning over. And normally it's, you bring in a new head coach and it's like the new head coach wants to bring in his guys. There wasn't that huge turnover. It's just the new guys are in so many cases seemingly just more talented or more possibility of what they could be, more potential, that you're seeing that turnover happen, even though it was almost, it was really an internal change. It wasn't like they turned over the whole staff and completely changed the schemes and all that kind of stuff. It's just, they've just sort of brought in better talent. And that to me is so intriguing because it's like, you look at the team that's on the field right now, that is not the team that you're going to see against Penn State in a month, against Michigan in 2 months. This is, if some of these freshmen are kind of taking that next leap, you've seen this with Alabama, you've seen this with Clemson in the past, where it's like, you get those few true freshmen who plug those holes and just like the learning curve just like goes vertical. And that makes it a whole different team. So, let's be clear. The problems are not all solved, especially on defense. Not all of the issues are solved, but there's so much intrigue there that it's like, if they can just not lose, like you've blown your one freebie. So now you have to just not lose while you're figuring the rest of this stuff out. If they cannot lose, if they can just kind of get through the regular season 11-1, win the Big Ten, get into the college football playoff, by that, they're not freshmen anymore. They're sophomores by the time you get to the end of the year. By the time you get to the end of the year, if they can get through this could be a really, really interesting team by the end of the year.
Yeah. I think college football is up for grabs this year. I think Alabama's good. I think we can all agree they've got a pretty good team. Is it last year's team? No. Is the SEC what it's been in the past? I'm not convinced it is. I mean, I think Texas A&M has looked brutal despite their ranking, and Arkansas got them over the weekend. I mean, Auburn, gosh, that should have been a loss there to Georgia State at home. I mean, it's college football's up for grabs. So if you can just get in, and I think a 12-1 Ohio State's getting in. Now, can they get there is the question we've got to continue to ask ourselves. But it's wide open this year, and it'll be interesting. Again, this should be a team that's better in November than they are today, especially now that I think they finally have made the decision on the youth movement. I think they dipped their toe in the water maybe the first couple of weeks. Oh, do we want to make this move? Do we not want to make this move? Do we want to play Steel Chambers a lot? Do we not? Do we want to play? Does TreVeyon Henderson our starter? Is he not? some of these other moves, Denzel Burke, some of the other guys. I think they're kind of going all in on some of these guys now, and the confidence and the reps and and everything else should make these guys better. So it's kind of like a survive and advance year. I think a lot of the posters on our board were kind of talking about that. We had a big thread about, some of these other teams, are they frauds? I'm like, I don't know who's good this year. But so it's just one of those survive and advance years. And, we'll see what happens. I love their young talent, and we'll see if some of the vets can, maybe the vets will relax. I mean, maybe that'll happen. Maybe the vets will relax. Be like, hey, maybe I don't have to do this all on my own. Maybe, JT Tuimoloau and Jack Sawyer can spell me for, maybe Tyleik Williams can play the series. Maybe, whatever, Denzel Burke, whoever it is. And maybe they will kind of relax and know that they can kind of just be part of the team as well. Cause it doesn't look like the talent in the third and fourth year classes is that type of talent to carry you to a title. It feels like they're going to need that push from the younger guys.
Well, it sure looks like they're getting it right now. And so, I mean, you go back to all the people who saying college football is too boring and predictable. Like, oh, friends, do I have the season for you? It is called 2021. And just you wait and see, it's not even the end of September. Clemson completely deader than disco in the national title race, 2 losses and looking somehow even more hopeless than you would think there. Oklahoma looking deeply flawed. Ohio State looking kind of questionable. I mean, it's just you go all around the country. And Tony Gerderman and I did an episode of Buckeye Weekly that dropped last night, talking about exactly that. So you can get our thoughts on that. But you go through the country, and it's like, boy, there is a shocking number of teams that is already kind of out of things, or dangling on the edge. And then at some point, so many teams have fallen over the edge. Like contractually, they have to have 4 playoff teams. So you have does this team deserve to be a playoff team? It's like, well, that's not really the question. The question is, are there 4 teams that deserve to be playoff teams? Because if not, well, someone else is getting in that doesn't deserve it. So, whether you think Ohio State is or not, if they keep winning, that could be them. This is if you were one of the Ohio State fans that got bored with the constant domination, well, good news. That has not been the recipe this season, but they are still very much in the title hunt. It is going to be a very, very interesting game this weekend at Rutgers. We will be there covering that for you. And best place to find all of that coverage is at BuckeyeScoop.com. We have our fantastic team of insiders covering the team inside and out. We have our Ask the Insiders board where you can chat with us, ask us questions, be part of a fantastic community, lots of fun conversations, great stuff on there. That is all at BuckeyeScoop.com. And if you're watching this on YouTube, we are very, very close to 10,000 subscribers. We might be over that by the time you watch this, but you can hit the little bell on YouTube, and that'll do. That'll subscribe you to our channel. And the reason 10,000 people have done that is because it gives you a notification every time we post a new video. So every time we post a new podcast, every time we post a new player coach interview, live pregame show, live postgame show, you'll just get a little pop-up notification that says, hey, this is going on right now. If you don't want to watch it, that's okay. You just move on with your day. If you do want to watch it, boom, hit that button, and you'll get notified, and you can just hop right on all of our live shows. Make sure you never miss anything during what is shaping up to be a fascinating Ohio State football season. So that'll do it for today. Thank you guys all for joining us. Have a great day. We'll talk to you tomorrow.